manifestation. Is it real or is it fake? In my video today, we're going to discuss the origins of this concept and lend some ideas as to whether or not the manifestation techniques you see on the internet actually work. The 7 Hermetic Principles. So, this is kind of one of the origins of the ideas for manifestation. However, the ancient alchemy texts are not as set in stone as you might think. So, from the 1st century AD, we have the Emerald Tablet, and later on, the Corpus Hermeticum. And here's the Corpus Hermeticum. And it reads like most of the same documents in the Hellenistic period. In fact, it's got a lot of similarities to the Bible in its formatting, which is really a formatting where you have a master, a student, a master, and then information is downloaded from God or source, right? So this is like the same parallel of having a apostle or a disciple who gets information from the master, and the master is downloading it from God directly. So it's the same kind of Hellenistic period idea, although it does delve into a little more ideas on physics. So the Emerald Tablet, which I'll put links in the description, because there's dozens of translations, and I think it's good to read multiple translations of the Emerald Tablet. But this, it really is where the 7 Hermetic Principles come from, and it's really kind of written more in a poetry style than in a list style. Okay, so this list, which a lot of people take as like set in stone, it's not that set in stone. I mean, the idea of the 7 Hermetic Principles was first outlined by the 3 initiates, okay? And this is a guy named William Walker Atkinson, and it was in 1908, and he published this book. And that's where he started to put these 7 principles in a list format. But they do reflect some of the ideas, especially from the Emerald Tablet, which, like we said, we don't know if Hermes was a real person exactly. I mean, it's thousands of years old, right? So William Walker Atkinson also is one of the first people to come up with the idea of the law of attraction, okay? And this is further refined by Neville Goddard, which if you've watched manifestation videos, you've no doubt ran into Neville Goddard. Joe Dispenza is another guy that I think he's got a pretty good outline of how it might work, and we'll get into that more later. But let's go over the 7 Hermetic Principles, and really what I want to do is distill these, right? So right off the bat here, we have mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. Okay. Sort of saying we're in the matrix, if you will. The mind of God is reflected in the mind of man, that sort of thing. Okay. Then the second principle, and this is a big one in alchemy, correspondence, as above, so below. And what you're saying is macroscopic patterns are akin to microscopic patterns, right? So we have vibration, which they're stating everything vibrates. Polarity, which is saying that, you know, there's negative and positive poles of structures and things. Rhythm, that everything in nature has a rhythm to it. Cause and effect, that we live in a cause and effect universe. And then gender, that everything has a gender to it, right? So right off the bat, I'm going to do with these 7 items what George Carlin did to the 10 Commandments. If you've never seen the skit of George Carlin sort of abbreviating the 10 Commandments, I would definitely look that up. It's pretty funny and actually quite intelligent. So, okay, right off the bat, vibration and rhythm, these are the same things. Vibration and rhythm are types of motion. right? The only difference between vibration and rhythm is how fast it is and how big it is, right? If you were at the scale of God and you could see the moon go around the earth, if in 1,000 years, if you could watch it as if it happened in 1 second, it would look like a vibration. But because to our perspective, we're little bitty and this thing happens slowly, we call it a rhythm, right? You get a drummer that plays fast enough, it actually starts to sound like a vibration. So vibration and rhythm are the same thing. They're just different in scale and time. But other than scale and time, they're kind of the same thing. All right. And the same applies to polarity and gender. This is the same thing. And what we're seeing here is a reflection of duality. Not everything has to exist as duality, but a lot of things are perceived that way or manifest that way. So it doesn't, if they're saying everything has a gender, it's the same thing as saying everything has a polarity. It's really the same concept. Okay. So, and if we really think about it, mentalism and correspondence, they're not that far apart. Yeah. If you have correspondence as above, so below, well, if our mind is just a small scale version of the large mind that we live inside of, the matrix as it were, mentalism fits within the correspondence. So I'm just going to say these two can still be correspondence. All right. And the cause and effect. Now that's kind of a tricky one, because cause and effect is really only accurate with a linear timeline. Okay? If you have a non-linear timeline, cause and effect no longer apply. So in a more advanced understanding of how the universe works, even cause and effect gets kind of sketchy. But cause and effect is still a matter of action, and really action is still a type of motion, really. So I'm just going to say we don't really need that. Pretty much these three things, correspondence, motion, and duality, is what defines the universe. All right? Most everything can fit into these three. So depending on what scale you're at in the universe, duality, motion has different categories. It could be orderly or disorderly, chaotic or orderly. It could be vibrational, rotational. There's a lot of different categories, but it's still just motion. And under the larger construct of duality, some things are going to be creative and some things are going to be destructive. So duality is within the all, and it's the yin yang symbol describes duality more perfectly. I need a sip of tea here. Destruction comes in terms that it must be more powerful. That death has to be more powerful than life, or else it wouldn't be able to do what it does. But that doesn't mean it can be everywhere, right? So this is why, like in Sunday school, when they talk about God being omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, so all-knowing, all-seeing, and all-powerful. Well, there's certain things that lean more towards the creation side than the destruction side. And I would say that the destruction side leans more towards the all-powerful, whereas the creation side leans more towards the all-knowing and all-present throughout the universe. That's just my opinion on how those things are divided up within the one all that we call, the one or whatever. So along those lines, there's another principle which I really don't know where to put in here, but it's basically that the way duality is split up, and that's that destruction. And this gets to the manifestation stuff. So destruction is faster than creation. Usually, right? You can grow an oak tree in 50 years, you can chop it down in 5 minutes. Lightning can do it in 5 milliseconds. So destruction is a faster force than creation. Now, let's talk about how these ideas, and we've kind of boiled down the 7 Hermetic Principles, but let's talk about how some of these ideas can affect manifestation. So how does all this play into the idea of manifestation, right? Well, from our quick review of the principles there, we now know that things are divided up in a way where creation of things may take a lot more time than the destruction of things. So thinking in the negative can have a stronger effect. And think about that, right? If you sit there and imagine positive things, it might help a little, but it might take a lot of time. And is it even possible to have things manifest without taking physical action, right? I've heard stories of it happening, but it seems to me the most successful people take action in addition to thinking positive, right? Now, when it comes to the negative, though, the negative is actually more powerful, man. If you think about it, there are people out there that work their butts off, but if they think negatively all the time, you watch their surroundings, look at how they're doing, look at how their life's going. It's a train wreck, right? It's unfortunate, but those negative thoughts have a very powerful destructive effect. So my conclusion about these new age manifestation techniques, and by the way, there's a reason why these videos are so popular. It's because like everybody's struggling, right? Grocery prices are up and housing prices are up and hard to find. And so people want relief, financial relief. And you got to factor that into the bias for people wanting manifestation ideas to be real. But that being said, I do think there's something to it. And the reason I say that is if you look at the most successful people, look at somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger, even if you don't care much for the guy, you've got to admit, I mean, look at what he's done. He comes from another country, becomes a bodybuilding champion, learns a new language, becomes a famous actor, and then becomes a governor of a state. Like, holy crap, dude. And if you ask him what his secret is, well, number one, it's a lot of hard work. But he also says he had a blueprint. So he had an idea, he had a plan. He took action on that plan. And he also had a vision. So it was those three things combined. He had a vision about how his life was going to go, what he was going to be. And he had a plan on how to get there. And then he took action on that plan. So I think those three things are probably the most powerful force for manifestation. And I think it's a little bit risky to get tangled up on purely the mental aspect of it. But yeah, that being said, definitely don't think negatively all the time, because that's not going to help you. There's always days where you're negative. Just let it be, let it pass, and then get back to thinking positive. It's like building a garden, right? Sometimes you have a bad day, but if you keep tending the garden, eventually things will grow and you'll have produce from it. So anyway, guys, that's all for today. I'm going to try to do a video about once a week if I can. Get that YouTube algorithm going. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.